Well, thanks, Joe, for speaking with me today. We've all seen the Facebook posts, news reports about Kathleen Wynne and her government wanting to control the sales of pot. Now, we know the tax money is here. This is what the powers to be are after. Now, Joe, you made a Facebook post here just a little while ago called Get Out of Business. From all the years you've served this area as our federal MP, what do you see her doing? What's her aim in this?
Well, I think you've hit the nail on the head. Whether you're for or against the decriminalization or legalization of marijuana in our country, each of the governments that are currently in power are drooling over the potential tax base that it could create for them. Well, Premier Wynne and her government provincially came out this week with how they would manage it. They say they would open some 150 marijuana stores, separate from our already existing liquor board stores and beer stores. And I just, I grow so tired of our government being in business. We have people out there who are struggling, trying to make a living as entrepreneurs, starting up businesses, and the government wants to continue to run businesses of its own. I just simply said in my posting, get out of the way. Let business do what business does best, and let government do what it has to do, which is to serve the people in certain areas according to our Constitution. I just find that of late, both our provincial and federal government have become more nanny-like. They feel they need to take care of us in some way, or tell us how we should behave, tell us how we should think. And I think the real answer is we'll be perfectly fine. We'll be okay if you just let us go out there and do what we do best, which is create wealth, and once we do, create jobs. She really wants to separate this out into a very well-controlled, in this case, the sale of marijuana or cannabis in Ontario, in a very controlled government way, creating unionized jobs around it and a bunch of other things. And I'm not against the jobs. The jobs would be created regardless. I think what they don't need to be is government employees.
Yeah, that's exactly true right there. I think, you said it. Their hands are in way too much right now, and I think what they need to be doing is, like you said in your post, is set the rules and make the path on how it should go, and then let the people do the work.
I think I should get the hell out of the way. But it's true. I mean, the answer is, I know of no business that the governments have ever been in, and having served the people here in Elgin-Middlesex-London for a number of years, it's safer for me to say it perhaps than others. Government does nothing better than the people who are running companies or trying to create wealth or trying to create jobs. The government just has no motivation to do it well. It ends up being top-heavy from a bureaucracy and administration point of view, and a terrible way to flow through profit and create jobs. It just always will be that way. There was a wise old politician, I wish I knew who it was, said, if you can find it in the phone book, the government shouldn't be doing it. It truly is about let the people do. Look, there's lots of people out there with great ideas, good hard work, and are willing to do it for a little less to start. And we're faced with a lot of that right now with small businesses in Canada working hard. And we need now for the government to quit competing with us.
The small business part of it too, I've said for many years myself that the driving engines of this, not just our province, but our country, is small business. They employ so many people. And yeah, the wages are tough. I mean, there's some that work on percentages, commissions. You have, the minimum wage. Now with her and her government, Kathleen Wynne wants to, let's call it the huge elephant in the room. She's raising minimum wage. So I guess this is going to be a two-part question for you as a small business owner, Joe. The raise in minimum wage, what's it mean to you, and what effects do you see it's going to have on small business?
Well, it's of course going to be detrimental, but let's not kid ourselves. Premier Wynne's not doing this because it's good for anything or anyone but Premier Wynne. She can suggest she's doing it because she's trying to help help people or raise the standard of living. She's doing this to keep her job. Every policy she'll create over the next year and a half, going up to the next election, or a year going up to the next election, is about job preservation for her. So we want to be straight with that. But let me be clear from a small business point of view. Most businesses, once they reach a point of deficit, can't stay in business. It's not like governments that can run deficits. Small business must make money to survive. To first of all pay the owner of the business, if in fact there's anything left over. But most small business people will pay their employees long before they pay themselves. So something like a minimum wage hike, and I think most business owners are reasonably fair with their employees, and if they're not, those employees don't stay long anyway. Most of the employers are very good about finding the right people that fit the job. The answer with a minimum wage hike that Premier Wynne is proposing, most business people like myself, whether in small manufacturer or in a restaurant, plan years in advance. Capital expenditures, things we're going to do in the future, how we're going to grow. She's dumping this on us in a very, very short period of time, a very rapid increase in wages, 33% increase in wages. None of us planned for that as of January 1st and January 1st of the following year. None of us have been able to plan that because it wasn't known. She didn't run on this. There was no indication it was going to happen, and no consultation took place with small business about this. So now we're scrambling. The answer is businesses cannot spend more than they take in and still survive. The bank won't allow them to do it that way. They're not governments. And so prices will have to be raised in order to cover an additional cost. In this case, the minimum wage going up. So it's not like that expense can just stay inside the business. The cost does go up, and we have to find a way to pay that cost in two different ways, truly, with the minimum wage hike. One is cut the cost of labor. Well, we can't cut it by hourly because the Premier is giving this gift and raising it. We can only then cut it by the number of hours or the number of employees that businesses have, and we have to find a way to either do with less, automate more, or use a more part-time system, right? And so those would be or in a lot of cases, or raise prices. It will be extremely inflationary. In one of my businesses, we've calculated that we'll need to raise prices a little better than 10% in order to cover the cost of the minimum wage hike, based on the fact that we'll also lose some business as we raise prices. So it's very inflationary for those that aren't in that scheme. Seniors, for example, that are on a fixed pension, are now going to see price raises of up to 10% or better in local businesses, and yet they're not getting a raise. Just the minimum wage workers are. And then, of course, there's the attached wages to that. People are currently earning between today's minimum wage and the future minimum wage. They'll want to, of course, go up at least to the new minimum wage and above, and those earning slightly above will want even more. So it'll be even more inflationary than that. But that's the problems we're faced with as small business. Look, good ones will survive and bad ones won't. But this is something our provincial government is doing to us that didn't need to be done, or could have been done with a lot better consultation over a longer period of time.
I know that a lot of people that I talk to that have minimum wage incomes now, or some of them even below that, on an individual level, they're loving the idea of now it's a massive raise for them. But there were many other ways I think that she and her government could have went around to help those, that under the 25,000 threshold or whatever. There were many other ways to do this that wouldn't affect the small business the way it will. And I'm just looking at Ontario Sunshine List currently. 2003, the Premier's office, she got a 25.5% increase in her wage, and then in 2014 up another 5.3, which gave her a 30.8% 8% increase within that 2013 and 14. The next 2 years, up to 2016, it only shows me, she remained no increase, but making $208,974 a year. So
I'm not going to suggest that isn't what the Premier of Ontario should be being paid. And I hate really comparing the two. Mm-hmm. The answer here is that's not a business. That is a government wage that even when it goes up, all that has to happen is they run a deficit to cover the extra wages. But businesses can't do that. Businesses must plan for expenditures. If I'm buying a brand new piece of equipment for my business, or I'm going to do a remodel or whatever it might be, I've got to plan ahead how I'm going to spend that money, where I'm going to get that money, over how long will I pay for that money through business loan and the like. If we don't make government plan the same way, this is what happens. She comes up with a rule. This is legislation. It's already before the province that will just pass because she has a minority or a majority government, and we'll be faced with having to put in place the how it will happen in our individual businesses. I think a lot more time could have gone into consulting business and saying, well, what can we do to make this happen? If indeed you want to raise the bottom end workers in our province, well then find a way for businesses to succeed and raise wages as that happens so that we can plan for that increased expenditure. I'm not faulting anybody getting a raise. Look, I think through life we'd all love to earn a little bit more the next year than we did the year before. And we'd always find ways to spend it. And certainly people that in the middle income, in the middle income section of our country, we spend almost everything we bring in. And it's good for the economy when that happens. But it's more a matter of not understanding the free enterprise system or the economic system that we're currently in Ontario, that things have already been increasing, like hydro and a bunch of other costs to businesses, and not allowing us to plan for the labor increase at the same time, stretching it out perhaps over a little bit longer. We don't have to rush to be the highest paid jurisdiction in the world or in Canada or in North America. We could have stretched it out over a little bit more, not against giving increases. I'm for planning for those increases so the business can succeed.
So I guess then you kind of touched on this. Do you see what I kind of see this happening is we already see the Superstore in St. Thomas has the self-checkout lanes. McDonald's now is most of their restaurants have all the self-ordering kiosks you can go up and do. Do you see a lot of these businesses now, how they're going to counteract this is they will have, let's say, a set time after 5 p.m. until 9 or it could be 7 till close. There won't be anybody at the counter and it will be all self-checkout.
Well, yes, two things will happen. Obviously, business will now look for, is it better for me from a financial and customer service point of view if I automate in any way or further? And yes, many will still continue to do that. Some cannot. I mean, I don't know how you could make automated checkout at your local Max Milk. That employee is still going to have to be there. So that business has to find a way to cut that expense in another way. I don't know how to do it. I could suggest to the Premier, well, then why don't you let the corner stores sell beer and wine and even be liquor stores, and then those stores could be more successful. So I'm saying instead of just increasing the cost of small business, let's find ways to work together and make small business more successful. The taxes on small business certainly could be cut. That'd be a place for the small business to find the extra cost of having to pay a higher wage. And as I said, there'll be those unsuccessful businesses that just don't survive this.
So I guess let me end this, Joe, with a lot of emails and messages that I've been getting to find out the answer to this. Is there really any way we can force Kathleen Wynne and her government to stop? Is there any way we can make the feds take a look? I'm sure they see what she's doing, but do they actually see how much she's killing us here? What's the answer to that? Is there anything we can do?
No, our system is based around elections being every 4 years, and so when governments make choices that you and I don't like, there's obviously some people out there who do like those choices. I think whenever a government is doing something you don't care for, you need to first of all let them know you don't care about it, but then be as loud as you also can on trying to solicit change for the future. What you would do different, what you expect different of governments. And then when you get to elections, it's very easy then to replace ones that are unpopular. Ones that make unpopular decisions need to be told ahead of time they're making unpopular decisions, so that in the end of that, they're not there term after term after term, and we'll see whether that actually happens with the Wynne government in Ontario.
And this is why voting is so important, why people need to get out to the polls. I personally have always said, when I get into a political discussion with somebody, whatever, and then they come to that point about the voting, well, I don't vote because it's just a waste of time. I tell them, then, you know what, I really don't want to hear what you have to say.
Well, I agree with the premise of you must vote to have a complaint, but I'm also suggesting if you are truly against it, then work for someone who is going to be your voice. It's not only just about voting, it's also about participating in the political system by helping in elections or helping get the message out as you're doing with your program.
So here's just a quick question, Joe. It just popped into my head while we're doing this. For the people that actually would like to join a political party, that they just don't know who to pick because, and I've had this same thing. I've looked at the PCs, I've looked at the NDPs, I've looked at the Liberals, and each person may have a part of my beliefs in their policies. Yet I can't find that one that kind of has that everything I want package. How does one person, go about picking that right party?
Well, look, I served in a government. Did I always 100% agree with where my party stood on it? No. I wore a team uniform, so I supported that party under the majority of situations, but my views may have been slightly different on a couple of things. I think you have to come up with the this most fits me situation rather than it's going to be perfect, it's going to be exactly what I want. You look even, our local representation, whether it's as mayor or a councillor or a provincial member of parliament or a federal member of parliament, they don't always agree with each other. The secret is to work hard for the thoughts that you really want to see happen. We live in a democracy, so when the majority goes against you, well, you have to accept that was the rule that just passed. And when it goes with you, you have to, celebrate, but move on to the next issue and quit rehashing issues as it goes. Look, it's about wins. It's about, as we used to say in hockey, well, that was a good shift, right? It wasn't about the game always. It's how did you do, right? And so sometimes that's the case even in politics.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So I'm going to let you go, Joe. I know you're really busy, and that made me kind of laugh because when I first called you, we were talking about this. You retired after many years in the government.
Yeah.
I thank you, Joe, for what you've done for us around here. I mean, I've worked with you on other projects too. A few years ago, we did the Haitian relief.
Yes.
Raised a lot of money there. I mean, you've always been so open to benefits or anything we need in the community, and you made me laugh.
I still believe that that participating in your community or being part of your community is the price you pay for living in it. I wish everybody thought that way because it truly we'd live in a far better community if that was the case. But that is boy, I thank the citizens of Elgin-Middlesex-London for letting me have had the job of member of parliament. It's not the other way around. I was there to serve them, not them to serve me. So I was thankful to have it. I was thankful to have those memories and still am.
But now you retired from that, and what are you doing now? You seem to be more freaking busy than you were when you were in the government. You're doing this, the big adventure about the granola.
Tony, I tried to do nothing and it didn't work. And so, look, I'm still doing a lot of community work, still involved with United Way and Farmtown and a bunch of other community organizations. But we started another business. Stephanie Brown and I started a granola business that's become nationwide and really working well out of St. Thomas, Ontario. Who knew we could do it? It's got a lot of growth to still happen, but we're very happy that Living Alive Granola has grown this big, and it's keeping me pretty busy every day of the week.
Well, that is awesome, because I've watched Stephanie's progress through this too, posting. She's traveled miles going to different stores, getting the product covered, and
yep.
I give it to you guys.
Over 100 stores, it seems, in our part of Southern Ontario, and plus now with a national distributor coast to coast. So it's growing. We hope it to continue to grow. We've got some new products we want to launch under the same label, and create local employment and continue to buy local agricultural products and do some good for our community. Excellent.
So local plug, Living Live Granola. You can get it at pretty much anywhere in the major stores here in St. Thomas, correct?
Absolutely. I don't know of one that doesn't carry it. So.
Excellent. And you got a Facebook page too that you can go right on, Living Alive Granola.
Visit Living Alive Granola and watch Stephanie's posts almost every day in a different area of Southern Ontario.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe. I really do appreciate chatting with me here.
All right. Thank you.
But if you close your eyes, does it almost feel like nothing changed at all?